Welcome to the first session of Layers of Generativity. Layers of Generativity, Axial Age, Modernity, Technological Civilization, part of Reconstructing Futures, Part 2. Description: when, where, and why did the mode of abstraction, philosophy, especially the universal as a relational point of collective commensuration appear? Why are there distinct epochs of mathematical renderings of the world? What causes time regimes, just as the cyclical, oscillatory, absolute, or linear, to emerge, and what are the differences between the ontogenerative potentials? What time concept will emerge after the linear time of modernity? What does the cumulative increase of abstraction in the course of history relate to historical types of aesthetics, subjectivity, and cognition? How can the apparent co-evolutionary relation between media, economy, metaphysics, cognition, and world relation be conceptualized? What transformation of mind and society caused by the current innovations can we expect in the future? These questions can be answered through the exploration of the evolutionary trajectories in the history of culture and mind, the examination of the expansion of cultural capacities. Heide et al. So faced a formal pattern of macroevolution which informs about these evolutionary trajectories. Each historical stage of reality structure appears as the abstraction and operative recursion of the previous reality structure. The pattern of recursion continues beyond each cultural evolution and unfolds a civilizational history. This course will examine civilizational history under the notion that development stages like the axial age of modernity can be conceptualized as matrices of event realization, wherein each stage forms a layer of generativity which is recursively integrated by the following one, unfolding a new continuum of events and relations. The Greek axial age is characterized as the Zenon matrix of event realization, which is recursively integrated in modernity and which is defined as the Laplace matrix of event realization. With the emergence of the technological civilization, we are witnessing another recursion in which modernity's Laplace matrix of event realization is abstracted and recursively integrated, rendering genetic spaces, Carl Chu, into objects within the newly emerging Conway-Wolfram matrix of event realization. The extrapolation of ontogenerative pattern of recursion not only allows for deep futurology as the macroevolutionary informed deduction of future types of cognition, temporalities, and world relations, but also for asking the questions whether the force that chiseled history to humankind into the world will be at some point detached from its medium again, establishing a post-human reality that marks another major evolutionary transition. Davor Löffler earned his PhD in sociology from Free University in Berlin with an interdisciplinary thesis on the shift of social structures, cognition, and temporality in the technological civilization. He worked as lecturer in sociology and philosophy at the BTK University of Arts and Design Berlin, and collaborated in various interdisciplinary working groups such as the Mind Machine Project at the MIT, Cambridge, Massachusetts, USA, the Interacting Mind Center, Aarhus, Denmark, and the role of culture in early expansions of humans group at the Institute of Prehistory, Tübingen, Germany. He is author and editor in the field of cultural theory and philosophical anthropology and co-founder of the journal Plateau, Zeitschrift für experimentelle Kulturanthropologie. So we changed a little bit of the how Google Hangout is run. Davor, and that means I'm asking you now, what kind of seminar format will we have? Will we have a lecture, a discussion? I think right now the first one will possibly be more akin to a lecture, with sometimes that I'm going to interject and that I'm reading questions from the students. What do you think?
Yeah, so, okay, first of all, thanks for having me and the moderation, and thank you guys for participating in this seminar. To answer this question, I have to talk more about the seminar, so we just start saying something. So, in general,
a short introduction of the seminar, I think that
yes,
it's good for.
So, the point is that what I'm presenting here is, I mean, you've heard when Patrick was reading the introduction, this was pretty complex stuff. It was the first time that I heard myself, somebody else reading stuff that I write, so to say, for the first time in a long time. And I see that's very complicated. So this seminar is about some results of my research of the last not 2 years, not 3 years, not 5 years, but 10 years basically. So I handed in a PhD that will be published soon, and it will have like I think 1,400 pages in the end. So the manuscript itself was only I think 600 pages or something like this, but it became bigger and bigger and bigger. And so this seminar is about this work, right? Which is a very big, huge interdisciplinary thesis. So the basic idea is very simple, but you need a lot of material to put it together. And so since this seminar is about this work, we will not be able to, how should I say, to read everything that is necessary to read, because it's mainly written, so it's written in German, and much of the literature can only be found in German, right? So, in other words, we have to develop the ideas kind of together. We have to derive them from texts that are available in English. I have to present some ideas that are not translated yet. And so in that sense, the seminar is basically, how would I characterize it? I think it's a mix of, it's kind of a journey together. So I will present stuff for the first time in English, and you will tell me if it makes sense or not, so to say. So basically, we will try to develop ideas together. So this is the mode of the seminar. But of course, there will be texts, and there should be texts also, because you personally will gain much more from the seminar when you don't only listen to what I have to say, but also if you read the text, it's just always better. Just makes more sense. But there will be less text than the last time. I think I said 20 or something like this. So in other words, today, just to stay with the formal questions, so today I will introduce the seminar, the topic by itself. So this will be mainly me speaking, but there will be a lot of interaction, and of course you can interrupt me anytime you want. If I'm maybe if I'm using a wrong term, or if there's something unclear, you can interrupt me anytime, and we will take breaks anyway, because it's a lot of material. And then in the next week, so I've seen that the intro today, let's say like this, that today's session will not be enough to introduce the whole seminar. So the next week will again be, at least half of it will again be an introduction, so to say. All right. So because there is no way to condense all the material of the first module of last year. I think we had not 4 but 6 sessions, average 3.5 hours or something like this. I don't know what this is. This is like 25 hours or something like this. So I couldn't condense 25 hours in one session. And so therefore we have to, today will be the introduction, so to speak, to the introduction. But this is going to be interesting because we're going to develop it from very low, from ground up, so to say. And by going very low, we can later integrate more data. right? In the end. So it's going to be a very, very basic introduction. Yeah, I don't know. So the other question would be, how long can you stay today? So because now we've lost already a little bit of time. It's nearly 11 o'clock, so we lost nearly 1 hour. And I don't think that we just go and see how far we get, or what's the... No, okay, Zachary doesn't have bedtime. All right. So maybe before I really start, I don't know, is it possible to get to know you a little bit, or at least to hear what brought you to the seminar? I mean, did you already understand something, or do you have an intuition what it's about before I start? I'm asking so that I can cut it down, so I can focus on particular questions. Does anybody want to say something?
Let's start with Doril, because he appears first from of the left in my Hangout, so I'll just...
Oh, wait, sorry, I forgot something. Doril, can I interrupt you?
Hello there. So I'm from London, and I'm a visual artist. I recently graduated from a experimental cinema and moving image filmmaking course. I generally think about time as sculpture or as a medium in my work, and I make work in what you call a game engine, which is software that you make video games in, and it's a very exciting environment to make work in, because you can think about images that work in real time, work live. And you can then diverge into things about chance, randomness, contingency, and some of the subject matter that I deal with is the legacy of modernism in Europe, often about architecture and architecture that doesn't exist anymore. So about speculative spaces and how we can attempt to image them, represent them, and actually just think about them in general.
Okay. Okay, it's kind of postmodern aesthetics you're trying to frame or something like this, right? Okay. Yeah, we will talk about this, but later, so it's implicitly now, but explicitly after the 4th session or something like this, just for information.
Eduardo. Do you...
I'm an experimental filmmaker from Mexico City, and I mostly work with documentary images. I am interested in finding like philosophical or like theoretical concepts in images I get from reality. So for instance, my last film is about 30 hours that followed an earthquake in Mexico City and how that catastrophe reassembles the perception of space and time, but also the way in which we physically assemble. So I'm interested in that, and yeah, this seminar looks interesting because it deals with perception of time somehow in relation to technology, and I'm pretty interested in those topics.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we will talk about this a little bit today, and more next time, and then continuously exactly about this.
John, do you want to present your point of origin into this class? Let's skip John as he's...
Oh, I'm sorry. That was me, right?
Yeah, that would be you. Yes.
Okay, yeah, because we're in a different order on my thing.
Okay.
Yeah, that confused me.
No, it's good to know. It's good to know. Next time I will make a list of people.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm Ian. I go by Ian. It says John on the screen. I get that. Either way is fine. I'm an attorney. I sort of picked up a master's in philosophy, while working, and as sort of one of the first classes about 10 years ago. I did a decent amount of reading. Actually, I shouldn't say decent amount, just a little bit on, sort of the philosophical intersection of like the work of Tomasello, which I believe you have addressed, and I guess perhaps will address in part. Again, it was a fairly long time ago, but it was very interesting, sort of notions of ecological self. But just in general, the course seemed interesting, so here I am.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, it will become philosophical, and we will talk about Tomasello next time. It's very important. This is just for everybody. Like Tomasello, if you don't know this, you don't know anything. I make it very clear. Why? Because this is one of the big findings in psychology of the equal, it has the equal magnitude of Freud or Piaget or something like this. So the collective intentionality. But we will talk about this. That's very, very important later. Okay, thanks.
Kevin, you're currently muted. So
Yes. Hey. So yeah, I took this class, or the first version of this class, and I loved it. And so I'm here again. I'm especially interested in like systems theory, complexity theory, how they can be used to understand society, and studying like multi-valued logic, and how like topology and that can also be used to understand cultural forms and stuff like that. And these are all touched on in this course, and it was touched on in the last course. So yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Thanks. Yeah, hi, Kevin. Again. Yeah, you're right about this. We will not talk explicitly about systems theory and so on. In this course, it will be more, I would call it maybe a phenomenology of, not in the philosophical, not in the discipline sense phenomenology, but phenomenology in the sense that we will show phenomena that we can later then explain with systems theory. Okay, so, but this will take a while. So we have to see, first we have to go through the history and see how things change. And then when we see the forms, how things change, then we can apply patterns to it, right? So the first step will be to follow change and then to see how we can explain it, right? But this will definitely be later the case at the end of this course. Yeah, thanks.
Mikey.
Mikey?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear.
All right. Hey, from Portland, Oregon. I running a little like bookstore project focusing on critical theory, philosophy out here. Working, I'm doing events and publishing and building kind of a network within people within that community. Particularly, I'm kind of been doing a lot of focus on interdisciplinary work, and kind of seeing more potential in art and other kind of forms of creativity within theory, and also the work of theory and different kind of practices in theory, and the potentials of that. And I've been reading a lot of and finding an interest in the speed of technology and social media and the structures of the mind, of how it shapes thought, and the kind of evolution of that through the last decade or so, in comparison to last couple hundred of years. So this course seems just another step to add into that, and I'm very excited to build into it.
Okay, that's true. That's what's going to happen. We are going to look at the coevolution, right, of mind, culture, and technology from the very beginning to the very end. That means till today, right? So the question would be maybe, will you read specific basic texts about it? I don't think so. Maybe I can find some. So there's a lot written about coevolution, but like clear. How should I say this? Clearly focused texts that are only examining, let's say, the coevolution of media, let's say between 1000 AC and today or something like this. There is no text like that because there is no clear theory or model how to model that. So we know that there is a coevolution between subjectivity and media, but there is no. So what I'm saying is we have to develop it ourselves in this course, basically. So we will see that there are relations. What we then do with the relations, how we explain them, is something else, right? But we cannot rely on some models or some basic texts that would explain us everything. You know, like there are many little explanations for the connection between, let's say, money and the alphabet and Greek thinking, like philosophy and money. So what is the relationship between the introduction of money and the emergence of philosophy? We'll talk about this a lot, but how should I say? There is no definite text or definite proof or definite model. You know, it's not like E equals m times c square or something like this. You know, media do this and that to the mind or something like that. So this is not there is nothing like this. Anyway, but you will see. We will go through the history of the coevolution. Okay, thanks.
Peter.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear.
Yeah, yeah, my name's Peter. In Melbourne, Australia. It's really early in the morning here and really cold, so I'm actually in bed, so I'm gonna leave my video off just for this session, if you don't mind. Yeah, the course material, I'm doing a certificate in critical philosophy at the New Center, and I mean, I guess I had to take some courses, but this one in particular interested me because I'm doing the certificate alongside a PhD that I just started at Monash University in Melbourne, and that's in literary and cultural studies. I think I'm interested in some general frameworks for understanding culture, even evolutionary, philosophically, just sort of what is culture, and maybe hoping I can derive some methodologies for approaching cultural studies that are a bit original or something. Yeah, and the technology aspect, I'm really interested to see where it goes. You know, and I found the readings really interesting. So, yeah, looking forward to the course.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, that's going. For some reason, I'm echoing. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, we got a feedback already taken away.
Yeah, the culture. You see in I think 1951. What was the name of him? Gluckhorn or something like this. He published an article where he listed up 156 or something, 152 definitions of what culture is, right? And so you can imagine today there must be like, let's say 1,000 solid definitions of what culture is. So I see the New Center and this course as a place for experimentation. So I think we will develop our own understanding of what culture is. And I also suggest this to everybody. It's good to start with some, let's say it's good to start with some basic text or something like this, but then you will find very quickly that this doesn't help to understand culture, especially because you have technological change. So somebody who defines culture in the year 1850 cannot know things that are part of culture in the year 2010. right? So in other words, you need a new definition of culture because you have new properties of what culture is. And so my personal suggestion would be to develop an own, you know, to develop an own concept of culture. And I hope that the material in this course will be inspiring. I think that's how I would say. I think it will be inspiring to get a new understanding of culture. I mean, new means maybe new to you, who are, to everybody who is not maybe in the German tradition, so to say. And you know, we also keep on building up and building up and building up. So my work is basically, I would even say, maybe just the next step of cultural theory of a German branch of cultural theory, so to say. So what I'm saying is, I think that we will have an interesting conversation about culture. So that's what I have to say.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Zachary,
hello, I'm Zachary, and I'm also in London. I'm certainly interested to hear about the cultural elements as far as either a continuity or a break with the German, let's say the Frankfurt School. I'm also studying film here in London, film and screen studies at Goldsmiths, and as well I'm interested in media archaeology and the shifts of media and new socius formations.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. Okay, that's exactly the topic. This is the question. Yeah, I will not give you an answer because we will talk about this the next 2 hours. Right? The shift in media and humans and cognition and so on. So this is today's topic. So Patrick.
I want to ask you about the reading for the next session. Is it already in the classroom?
Let's say like this. Did everybody read? Did everybody have a chance to look at the definitions at the syllabus that I sent? Up? Yeah. Okay, let's just imagine we did. The next session will again be kind of introductory, but I will add some more readings.
What kind of assignments do you want from the students? We have a
okay, I mean for the seminar in general. I would.
I can offer you different modalities. Like we have a lot of students, and one modality that could work out because it's a 4 session seminar would be to have one person presenting and another commenting.
Okay.
Each, like to have 2 presentations of 2 people, which means 4 people could present each class. Other than that, a writing assignment could also work because it's only 4 sessions, which means all you have in the last class, you have presentations.
Yeah, but by the way, since we're talking about it, we said we have 4 sessions, right?
Yes.
Last year I had 6 sessions because there was no way to make the material in 4 sessions. So I'm not sure if we should do this year again, but I'm open. I definitely offer 1 or 2 more sessions to finish it, you know, because it doesn't make sense. There's so much material that in the end we won't have a chance to wrap up and discuss everything together, you know, retrospectively, so to say. Okay. So I can tell you all already, if you want to, of course, that I can offer 1 more, definitely, from, you know, so I'm offering 1 more, and maybe even 2 more, depends on how far it goes. So this is one thing. The other thing is, let's talk about the assignments next week, okay?
Okay.
But we will have assignments. Okay, this is what I can guarantee to all of you.
Let's talk about the extra class with together with Mo after.
Yes, sure. I'm just saying, if it comes to that, then I'm offering to everybody for, of course, for free. We'll just finish the material.
And if it's not possible because of time schedule things, then it's going to be a writing.
Okay, sure, of course.
Okay.
All right. So, what else? I just want to say something. Anyway, should we start slowly?
Yeah, let's start.
All right. So, okay, so I will start with. I will start again. I've prepared a PowerPoint presentation because it's for me it's easier to do that. First of all, my English, as you can hear, is kind of okay. A little bit, you can hear the German in the background. By the way, I'm not a German, I'm a Croatian. But you can hear I was born in Germany, so you can hear the accent. So on the one hand, PowerPoint presentations help me, to convey more material, and also it's maybe easier to explain it with a picture than to explain it by words. And also, when I used to teach, I always had a blackboard or a whiteboard where I could draw concepts, and I cannot do that now. But I really need to draw concepts, and I really need to, and that's the reason why I'm using a PowerPoint presentation. So basically, we will have an open PowerPoint presentation discussion, so to say. And this is the mode of today, and we will take breaks from time to time again. Okay, again, I forgot what I wanted to say. Okay, anyway, I just start, okay? So I go now to the PowerPoint presentation, hopefully. What happens?
It's here. We can see it.
It's all right. Okay, you can still hear me well? You can hear me, you can see me, you can see the PowerPoint presentation. All right.
We can see the PowerPoint presentation, and we can hear you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so I didn't say much about the seminar yet because I will be saying something in the next moment. So as you can see, it's called, okay, let's just skip the title. We all know the title. So today, session 1, we will just get a little bit closer to what I mean with generativity. So the session is called today, Revealing Generativity on the Deep Structures of Becoming. So this is a quite, a little bit, how to say in English, pompous title, right? But you will see why it makes sense to speak like that. Okay, so the problem is this: we have a lot of sections. So we have 11 sections altogether, and they all are building up on each other. But at some point, you might also lose, how to say this, lose the thread, so to say. But you won't, because I will remind you what it's about. The point is that at the very end, everything will fall together. Everything will fall into its place. So it's like a big composition of 11 chapters. But if it's too much, we can take breaks, or just finish it another time or something like that. So this is the mode of how we are going to do it. And yeah, let's just start with the intro. So the basic question of this, of my work and of this course also, the technological civilization. So I'm not sure if this is a term that is used much in the English-speaking countries. In Germany, it's not so often used. So you have, for example, the idea Anthropocene, the notion Anthropocene, or the technosphere, or something like this, right? But let's just call it the technological civilization. So we all know that all civilizations are technological, but apparently we have some special new type of a culture that can be, characterized as the technological civilization. So what does it consist of? Informationalism. So we know this, right? Everything is about information technology. Then we have datafication. That means that there literally is no event that is not put into data. So nothing that exists on the planet is not somehow mapped and rendered and screened as data, or at least this is the idea. Then we have algorithmization. That means that, yeah, how would you say this? That the environment becomes alive in that sense that you allow technological systems to grow own types of intelligence, or at least to react intelligently. Automatization is clear. Then we have the scientification of life. Everything becomes measured and made and produced and fabricated. We have anthropo technologies. Bioeffects are happening. So I'm not sure if this is a term that is used again in the Anglo-Saxon country. Bioeffect simply means a fact or a product that is biological. That means genetic engineering, artificial life forms, and so on. So, then we have self-engineering. That means that we are kind of trying to, program ourselves, program the mind. So we all know this with whatever nootropic drugs or therapies and whatever. And then we have the avatarization, which is kind of similar. That means we turned into avatars in the network systems. You are a different person on Google, then you are on Facebook, then you are on Instagram, and whatever else you have. Right? So basically, you can say with every media device you have, you are a different person. So you have an avatar, and then you have even many avatars in the networks, in the single networks. Then, of course, we have the hybridization. That means the fusion of technology and humans and biology. Virtualization, externalization of the mind, or at least of features. That means artificial intelligence. And we have this idea of trans or posthumanism. And upload. And so upload is the idea that at some point we might upload our soul into the computer or our mind into the computer, which will then produce a paradise to us, similar like the Matrix. And the disconnection theory of David Roden is that maybe humans will start producing life forms or intelligences that will be so much more intelligent that the human, that we won't understand them anymore, and that they will start, producing worlds and other life forms that are totally disconnected from us. All right, so this is the disconnection thesis, that we are about to produce life forms that are cleverer than us and totally disconnected. We don't understand their motives anymore, right? And their intelligence. Okay, so the question is a technological civilization a new stage of civilization? Is it still? So the problem is, why do we need to know that? Is this something totally new, or is it still modernity? So why do we need to know that? So we need to know that for a simple reason. We need to break out from the catastrophic path dependency of late modernity. So capitalism and modernity ended up in a lock-in, as it is called in systems theory. So the system is locked in a path and it cannot get out of it anymore. And it's getting worse and it's actually accelerating, right? And there is no way that we could, steer it away from this path right now. But the question is, how can we get away from it? So the path dependency is catastrophic because we are literally destroying the biosphere. There is no doubt about it. Everybody who says there is no climate change is I'm sorry to say it, is just an idiot or whatever, or he makes money with it, all right? Because it's impossible. There is simply, in 50 years, we will have a temperature increase of 4 degrees, and that means that half of the planet will not be inhabitable anymore. Okay, so just to make this very clear. So we are right now definitely destroying the biosphere. And so the question is, how can we get out of this path dependency? How can we make a systems transformation? All right. So we need some sort of guidance for the system transformation. The question is, what can come after modernity? All right. What can come after modernity? Not what can we do with modernity? We are asking, we are going to the companies and asking them nicely, could you please cut down on on air pollution and so on? And they say, yeah, no, we can't, because we are working for the market. We have to produce profit. Therefore, we cannot reduce our pollution, exhaust. So in other words, in the systems, in the institutions of modernity, there is no way to get out of the path dependency. Absolutely no way. You can be left, you can be green, you can go protesting on the streets. You could even go and kill. Let's say you could even go and kill all the CEOs of the world. It's like maybe 1,000 or something like this. But this wouldn't help because the system is still there. Even if you take out the people who are literally responsible for that, still the system would just put in the next person at the same slot. All right. So the question is, how can we get out of this? This is, I think, this is the most important question in these days. So we need a system transition. We don't need, but if you want humanity, to survive, then we need it. So how do we steer this system transition? So if we know what is possible from the perspective of cultural evolution, if we know what can come next, what can come after modernity, maybe we can just take the potentials and latencies that we have already and accelerate and steer the development into this new civilizational stage. All right. So therefore, we need to know the potentials and entry points for transitional actions. So where would you start a transition into another system? What can come after modernity? What can come building up on the technologies that we have right now? Okay. So what can the new institutions be? What can the new economy be? What is the new structure of economies? What new media we have can we expect to happen? What new politics, cognition, subjectivity, even what metaphysics might appear after modernity? All right. So can we somehow grasp this? This is the question. And I would like to. What is it here? Am I back? Okay, I'm back again. So I would like to ask you: is it clear so far? Does it make sense?
If anybody has questions, please present them. Anything, like even if it's just a small thing you couldn't understand, something you want to have a second description of, anything. Don't be shy. You can always ask questions. Like now.
Clear so far.
Okay, so good so far. Okay, so you understand the problem, right? So the question is there a stage coming after us? What kind of minds would appear after us? What kind of economy would appear after us? Right? I mean, literally after us, after our type of reality. So, and if we can somehow derive that, if we can find out how it could be, maybe we can just accelerate in this direction. So, because as I said before, as a sociologist, I'm convinced. How should I say? My life experiences and my career as a sociologist convinced me of the fact that there is no way that you can go against capitalism with force. For example, as a left communist or Marxist or something like this. So there's no way to introduce Marxism by force or something like that. It would fall apart again. And I sent you a recent text soon where I showed why this is not possible. It has something to do with technology. So in other words, what we have to do is we have to take what we have right now, the new technologies, and see what potentials we have to build something new. Okay, so this is the background, the idea in the background, basically, as a sociologist. But of course, there are also a lot of philosophical questions, and yeah, we will get to that later. All right, so I go to the next. Okay, so back again. So the technological civilization, is it a new stage of civilization? I will define later what that means, but I think it should be clear already by now. So we can define civilization stages can be defined by levels of the doable. So in German it's Machbarkeit, also Ebenen der Machbarkeit. So I don't know how to translate that better. I just translated as levels of the doable. It's from a philosophical anthropologist, a German one, Popitz, from 1996. So Popitz sees 7 historical revolutions of artificialization in human history. So the first one is tool use, right? With tool use, the humans are putting some artificial objects and events into reality. So this is the first step of artificialization. The second would be agriculture. The third, the processing of metal through fire, right? So we have a new object, we have new materials, we have new artificial processes and devices. And then the first stage, according to Popitz, is urbanization, around 10,000 years ago, maybe later. And then he makes a very, very, very big, jump from 10,000 years to the machine in modernity, which started around 1200, 1300 or something like this. So the machine is again another type of artificialization, right? So we are putting something artificial into reality. So we are enriching the environment with artificial, human-made, I would say even membranes between man and nature, right? So yeah, basically that's true. So you can say you can call it membranes. So tool use, agriculture, fire processing, metal, urbanization, a machine. These are basically membranes between humans and nature. Yeah. Anyway, so then he says the next one is chemistry, and the next one is electricity in Popitz's theory. So this is a little bit too simplified, of course, but you get the idea what it's about, right? So can we now say that the technological civilization is the technological civilization a new level of the doable? So if you say it's a new civilizational stage, then it should be a new level of artificialization, and it should be a new level of the doable. So is it? So I'll show you some examples now. These are headlines from news which all appeared in 1 week last November. I was very impressed by that. So it was 1 week that was totally crazy. So apparently today we can genetically modify a beetle to grow a third working eye. Okay, not just a simulation of an eye, but a third working eye, which apparently is somehow connected to the brain, and the little animal can see with 3 eyes now. So whatever that means, but so this is probably a level of the doable, a new level of the doable. And look at this. Biohackers are using CRISPR on their DNA, and we can't stop it. So this guy is apparently, genetically modifying himself to whatever need. But all right. Then genome at home. Biohackers build their own labs. You can do it yourself now. And then we also have robot passes China's medical licensing exam. So this must be probably some artificial intelligence similar to Watson or something like that. So brain implant boosts human memory. And finally, world's first human head transplant has been successfully carried out. Okay, this is probably a fake. This guy is this doctor from Italy. He's telling us since 10 years that he wants to transplant heads, and nobody believes him. And every 2 years or something, he comes and says, "Now he did it. Now he did it." Anyway, but in principle, we are not too far away from that. So, in other words, what we know now is probably we can say that the technological civilization is a new level of the doable. All right, so we can do something new. We are producing new artificial realities. So we have a new stage in history. We can define a new stage in history as a new level of the doable. So the problem is now this assertion is based on pure empiricism and description. So we can say we can do new things, but 100 years ago, when we invented the car or the radio or the telephone, we also said we are doing new things. All right. So this is also a new level of the doable. So it's not enough to just say we are now in a new level of the doable like this, because this is just empiricism. It's just a description. We see it, but we don't have a logic. We don't have a formal principle that will help us to define if there is really a new stage or not. You know, it could still be modernity. It could still be the next, just the gradual increase of modernity. Again, we will talk about later how to define modernity and all these things. Okay, now what do we need? Is it all pure contingency and chance, so we can do new things? Are they appearing randomly, right? Just or can we localize this shift in history? So in order to understand if the technological civilization is a new step in history, we need to localize it in history. We need to compare it to other shifts so that we can understand if this is also a discrete new stage or not. All right. So we need to know if there is any logic of development that will help us to define stages. So we need to know that to know where it leads to in the next step. So we know it leads to new institutions, economies, politics, media, cognition, to a new type of temporality, to a new type of materiality, and maybe to new metaphysics. So this is what we want to know, and we know that in earlier shifts this happened, but we don't know if we can. Yeah, we don't know if we know if we don't know if we can know it for today. And our task is to find out if we can know it. Okay, so this is the idea. Can we know? Can we know? Can we know? Let's say a tool. Can we know a formalism or a principle that will help us to know what comes next? I'm not saying that we will know what comes next. We just will know if we can know it or not. This is the idea. A little bit philosophical, but what can we do? So, okay, so now we know that a new stage in history means a new level of the doable, and that comes with new institutions, new types of cognition, new materiality, new metaphysics. And if you put all this together, new institutions, new types of cognition, new materiality, and new metaphysics, that means we have a new reality, right? So the technological civilization, in other words, means a totally new reality. I will explain later what exactly. So we will understand it later. So if it's a really entirely new stage of civilization, then this means it's outside of our contemporary reality. We cannot grasp it. It's beyond our reality. So in other words, the technological civilization, if it's a new stage, leads to the outside, to the exterior. So what is the exterior? What is meant with the exterior? The exterior is something that we cannot grasp with our system. It's entirely outside of it. All right. So the technological civilization will be something that resides in a total unknown, that is totally not graspable. Of course, we can say maybe we will have flying cars or something like this, but that doesn't cover the reality in which we will live in, or not we, the generations after us. So in other words, every new stage in history means a new level of the doable. That means a new reality or new institutions and so on. And that means it's the outside. It's always the outside compared to the former stage of history. It's a total outside that cannot be grasped. I will explain this later in more detail. So, in other words, the technological civilization leads us to four categories of the outside, of the exterior, of the human. And our task is to grasp this outside, and I will just explain the four outsides. So, the first outside, which we are facing right now, is simply the outside as the total unknown after modernity. So, modernity cannot know what's going to happen after modernity. We simply cannot see it. Our system, our detectional systems don't have the right resolution to see it. So we simply cannot know what comes after. So this is the total unknown. And the important thing is this, modernity always defined itself by progress, by the linear time regime, right? So we always knew, not always, but let's say this was the basic idea, that we are heading towards something altogether in a linear, serial way, right? This is the linear time regime, the linear time frame that we believe in, the progress, the time arrow, you know, the progression time arrow. So the point is, with the 21st century, this doesn't exist anymore. We don't even know what is going to happen in the future. We don't have this clear progress, this clear horizon at the end of progress time, so to say. So how should I say? Just think for a moment of the. No, okay, let's skip that. We will talk about this later. So there is a total unknown after modernity, which isn't even covered by the idea of progress. All right, there is something behind it, and we don't even know if the progress will lead us to that. So it doesn't mean necessarily dystopia or something like this, but well, all right. So then we have the outside within the human. Apparently, something brought us to the place that we are producing humans. Genetically, let's say like this. Okay, let's say like this. What does it mean that humans are starting to genetically modify themselves, and by that change their own mind or their own existence? That means that there is something in the human that is outside the human that is driving the human to do things. Do you see my point? So I do something that will entirely change my whole system. Did I choose that? You see what I'm saying? So that there's an outside within us that continuously pushes us, so to say, to drives us through history to do things, to produce whatever Google, to produce Facebook and so on. So what is this force? We say we want that. We want to have a better life. We want to have, how should I say? So we have a utilitaristic or pragmatic mindset or something like this. And then, of course, you know that you want that. But who put that mindset into you? So who said that it's useful to do this or that? All right. So in other words, we have an outside within what we think, what we want, so to say. There's an outside within the intentionality, so to say. Yes, please.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Doesn't this mean that there is no finitude to human existence?
Endlichkeit.
Endlichkeit, yeah.
In what sense? You mean the human as an organism?
Like in the accelerationist idea of beyond finitude, that by creating new tool, that humans are the tool producing animals, and that since we are already in the process of producing tools, going one step farther and producing tools that then can change us is not that different to Stone Age man taking a chisel and making a hole in his head to cure something.
No, it is different. I see your point. It's different because now the creator becomes created by a force that is outside of the creator. This is the difference. So if you have the tool, the human that uses a tool, of course, and then the use of the tool, the coevolutionary modifies the organism again, right? So there's always this hybrid interplay between the tool and the organism. That's what you mean, right? So there is a feedback loop. There is so to say.
There were the Biowan. They were like a German people lived in Germany, and they pushed their heads as babies, so they would get different head shapes and stuff.
Yeah, that's true. But the difference, I see. We will talk about this difference actually in the 4 sessions, because this is exactly the hallmark of the technological civilization. Exactly this question: what is the new about us? So I understand that you say technology was always there and it always had an impact on us, but it's something different if if I change my face a little bit or something like this, or if I add new properties. And new potentials. This is something different, right? So it's a difference if I can genetically modify myself to have 7 fingers instead of 5. This is just a stupid example, but you see my point. With the one thing, I'm modifying the existing, and with the other, I'm adding properties that weren't there before. And the point is, who needs these properties? Where do they come from? Are we, so to say, why do I let's say, modify my brain to think faster? Do I need that for nature, or do I need that for society? obviously I need it for society. You know, if I'm modifying myself to become smarter or to have a bigger working memory or something like this. What is the environment that forces me to produce this new property? Obviously, it's nothing that was there in nature, but it's a very highly refined society itself that wants me to produce this new property. All right. So we have an interplay that is not human nature anymore, so human versus nature, but now it's so to say human versus technology, so of human versus society. You see my point?
Yes.
So that what you know, like Münchhausen, you know, pulling, how do you say, bootstrap in English, right? Pulling yourself up by the hair.
Pulling up by
your, yeah, exactly. So what is pulling us up by the hair now? Something new is happening, right? So because the environment that forces us to do these things is highly artificial already. And the question is, does it detach now? You know, does this force detach now from, so to say, from the human, and then start produce a new type of life, basically, right? Yeah, thanks for the question. That was important to clarify. But you see my point. I'm claiming that there could be something new happening right now. We don't know yet, but we will see. Okay, then I just go back quickly to my beautiful presentation. All right. Okay, we said it already. So there's the third outside. If you have we just talked about it. So you will see later that every stage in history and every culture has also our own type of cognition and own type of consciousness. So if you grow up in a highly technological reality like in ours, you will simply be socialized. Your mind, it's called cognitive socialization. So your cognitive socialization will be different than if you grow up in a tribal society in Africa or somewhere else, right? So this is very simple. So in other words, there is a type of cognition or consciousness which is outside of ours. And the question is, can we somehow see by applying, you know, co-evolutionary principles, what might happen next? What kind of mind might appear after modernity's mind? Right? And then we have, oops, what happened? Okay, this is maybe the most complicated, and that's what we will talk about today. You have the outside of an objective generative force or regularity behind the emergence of existences. Okay, I make this very simple. If you look at history and if you find a pattern in history or in general, if you find principles and patterns, that then it means that that behind the realities which are concretized, there is a reality which governs the concretization of these realities. Okay, so to make it very simple, let's say the genetic code. So I know a human, or like let's say any organism like a human is born and, you know, grows up and lives in a reality and produces a reality around him, but how should I say, this reality, this world relationship that he's in is also governed by the genetic principles in his DNA on a very basic level, so to say. So I'm not saying we are all genetically, you know, determined or something like this. I'm just saying that we have principles and regularities and patterns that are before reality emerges as such. All right. And the question is, can we find this in history as well? Can we look at the historical world relations and can we find patterns that are behind it, so to say? Can we find patterns behind the becoming of reality? So this is the question. And if the technological civilization is a new step in civilization, then it also points us directly that there are such generative forces in the background. It's not so important, this outside, but I just wanted to show you. Wait a second, what's next? So this outside, that outside is not so very important. I just wanted to show you the magnitude of the question. So we are not dealing just with semantical questions. You know, is it like, do we call it modernity, or do we call it technological civilization, or the technosphere, or the Anthropocene, or whatever you might come up with posthumanism or something. It's not just a question of how you call it. It's really a shift in reality itself. This is the important thing that we have to understand as humans, so to say. This is not just yeah, I mean, I cannot say it clearer than I just said it. So the point is, it's very real. There is an outside, and we are just about so to say, to touch it. We are very close to it, right? And it really means a shift in reality. It means a different, for a different time, so to say, a different continuum, a different universe. So this is that's why I'm emphasizing the outside so much. All right, if you can, we go to the next quickly, so I don't know what's coming next. Okay, so the technological civilization, it's okay, so look now. If you want to grasp the outside, if you say that the technological is the outside, then we need to establish a position outside of the human. We need to establish a perspective that looks at reality not through human eyes, because the human is inside and cannot grasp the outside. Right? So we need to establish a perspective from the outside of the human. Now, of course, I know this is paradox because still a human is talking to you, and so it doesn't make much sense to say that we can establish a position that is totally outside of the human. But we will see that maybe it is possible. And yeah. Okay, so and this is what we'll do, as I say, in module 1. We did it already, and in module 2. So we will try to establish a position that allows us to look at the human and its history from the outside to understand where we are now and where we are going in the future. Right? So this is the, okay. So I come back for a second. Is everything okay? So I know this is a little bit dry, and I think, but are we still good? Can we concentrate? Can you understand? So, yeah, okay. All right. Okay, it's a pity. I thought I would be much faster because we just made the first section of 11, so I don't know how this is going to go. All right. So let's just go on with the next idea. So the question is, how do we get to the outside? We want to know the patterns and principles of becoming, right? So of reality. So what is behind the becoming of reality? You will see at the very end. You will see where all this is going. If you're lost for a moment, don't be afraid. You will be, put back on the boat. Okay. So historiography of becoming. So what is now? What is now our question? Our question is, if you think about the phenomena of the technological civilization, like artificial intelligence or something, this is appearing at some point in the universe, right? It wasn't there 100 years ago. Now it is there. So we can say, obviously, something new is emerging. Something new events are happening. New relations are happening. So something is becoming, right? So so the question is, can we find a pattern of becoming that will explain us what is happening right now with the technological civilization? So if we look now at the appearance of events on material relations on Earth's surface in history, so we find this. So this is from 1994. Like, it's a little bit outdated with the numbers, but in principle it's still valid. So here you have the timeline 3 million years ago, 2 million years, 0, and here you have the degree of hominization. So this diagram is depicting the evolution of the human organism from 3 million years ago till today. So we know that the skull is an old thing, then the brain is also very old, but a little bit later the teeth appear apparently, then hands, and then the upright walking, and then in this diagram, apparently around 2 million years ago, stone tools are appearing, stone walls, ochre pigmentation. At some point, like 500,000 years ago, fire appears. Then we find indications of skull rituals. and then later burial rituals and art, which is very much discussed. But okay, at what point art appears, or at least decoration. So, but this is sort of the depiction of very rough depiction of the human cultural evolution or hominization. So, but this goes on. After the burial in art, after the emergence of art, you also have first signs of shamanism, then domestication, agriculture, cities, religion, writing, philosophy. So what is now important about this? What I'm saying here is it appears at some point. It was not a part of the universe before, all right? So teeth didn't exist. The principle of chewing, or for long, many billions of years of the universe, there was never anything that would chew. All right. So, but at some point, teeth appear. So this is something new, a new relationship emerging in the universe. It wasn't there before. Now we have it all of a sudden. And the same goes with upright walking or hands. All of a sudden, these things appear, and they are part of reality, and they're also producing reality. Right. So. The same goes with, and so on, stone tools. All of a sudden, you have an organism that produces stone tools, pigmentation, fire, and so on, and art, for example. So this is also, we will talk about this later. This is important. All of a sudden, organisms are producing. Okay, art. All right, so. So we have new. Okay, now I'm confused. I got confused by the message from. So we have a new relationship towards reality. So art appears. All of a sudden we have aesthetical. Okay, I'll just go on. Then all of a sudden magic, shamanism appears. Then domestication, agriculture, and at some point writing appears. At some point philosophy appears. All right. So we see that all of these are components of new realities. So if you have a stone tool, for example, this makes up a new reality and new events in the universe, basically. So, and what interests us now is, of course, if there's a logic in this. So I'll give you another example for this question of becoming. So this is my favorite example, a bungee jump. So at some point, the universe starts containing the feeling of the bungee jump. All right. So you get my point. So the bungee jump is just a aesthetical perception in a body. Just in quotation marks. It's a perception of it's an aesthetical or body perception when you do a bungee jump. But this feeling appears all of a sudden in the universe. It's a part of the universe. It appears in the moment when the technology makes it possible to build a rope that you can use to jump. Right. So where was it before? Somehow it was there, but it wasn't there, right? So for many years, for 1 million years, humans didn't bungee jump, but all of a sudden they do bungee jump. That's what I mean with appearance of events or material relationships on Earth's surface. You have new, events, new perceptions also, and this is not only spiritual or mental or idealistic. The bungee jump. Obviously, the feeling of the bungee jump all of a sudden is a part of the universe and wasn't there before. Right? And the same goes with ritual dance, for example. So all of a sudden, you have an organism that likes to move in synchronized patterns, right? And decorate itself for some reason. Or all of a sudden, the measure of music, the beat, it becomes important. So there is no animal that can understand a beat. So if you play a beat, no animal knows what is happening. So, that just doesn't get it. It's in a different temporal reality than humans. But humans apparently like to be synchronized and synchronize each other. And so this feeling appears all of a sudden. Why does it appear? Under what circumstances does it appear? And what does it tell us that it exists? So what does it tell us about the human and about reality, that all of a sudden people feel an aesthetic pleasure in dancing, as an example. So, and if you look at this, another thing appears all of a sudden in the universe. So we have the concept of numbers. There are numbers. I've never seen a number. You've never seen a number, you know. Nobody has ever seen a number, but apparently it exists. So now you could say, okay, but this is nothing new with the human. Animals also have a concept of number. They can count. Yes, we can, but not to 2,500 and not to 3 million, 35 million, something. All right. So not only did numbers as a concept appear all of a sudden, but also strange numbers like 35 million 799 8,800. So this is obviously a concept that we can talk about, that is part of the universe, that even guides our actions and decisions. You know, if you want to win in the lottery, for example. But none of us has ever seen this number or could even count it. So it's kind of unreal, but still it's real. It's ideal, it's kind of notional, it's mental, but it's not. So I'm not going into mathematics philosophy now, but you get the point what I'm saying. And the same goes with the negative numbers. They appeared actually very late. So what is a negative number? How can you say there is less than zero? You can try to explain this to a 4-year-old, and then you will see that it took humanity a long time because it's not intuitive. You have to think to get to the negative number, but they do exist. And the same goes for real numbers, like, you know, the square root of 2 or pi. This is a number that, so to say, even less exists than negative numbers. So they just appear. And then we have, for example, the modern tonality or Bach's music. So this is apparently an aesthetic relation that all of a sudden just emerges out of nowhere. It's just there. All of a sudden we are producing instruments and pianos with a certain tonality, and it's part of the universe, and it's spreading all over the planet. I mean, go to Japan or China, they're all playing Bach every day, you know, like up and down. So what I'm saying is that all of a sudden, all over the earth, you have people playing in the same tonality and moving their body in similar patterns. All right. So the music is not just music, and you cannot distinguish it from the technology or the materiality of the planet. You get my point? All of a sudden, this appears on the planet and it's spreading on the planet. Okay, the same goes for the calculus, appears at some point. We are starting to deal not only with real numbers or negative numbers, but with infinities. What is an infinity? How is this possible? Or look at art again, pointillism, shortly before 1900. People start to understand why this is aesthetical. Before that, it wasn't there, you know, and you can look at the picture and you can find it, you know, breathtakingly beautiful. But before that, people wouldn't have found it breathtakingly beautiful, right? So this feeling of the beauty that you get when you stand in front of this or other pictures, this is new, but it's all of a sudden part of reality, all right? And okay, this skipped that. And another example is E equals m times c square. So Albert Einstein's relativity formula appears all of a sudden. And another example is anthropology. At some point in history, one culture is sending probes into other cultures for systematic observation, measuring, and formatting of their worlds. Right. So this friendly white person goes to Africa and does nothing else than you know, measure the people. You know, indexicalize a catalog, you know, put it in a catalog, put an index on what we think, measure their world, their reality, right? So what I'm saying is, at some point, even the worlds of other people, other worlds are appearing as part of the universe. Before that, nobody cared about it, but all of a sudden, the other world of somebody is something that you want to know about, right? It's an object in that sense. Okay, so as we can see, we have new things appearing in reality. We start with philosophy in this diagram, but this goes on. At some point, we have the machines, and later the bungee jump, and later artificial intelligence. All right, so we see that all this is appearing step by step, maybe build up on each other. So the question is now, is there, yeah, okay, so again, so these from the thief to scholar rituals, to cities, religion, philosophy, bungee jump, artificial intelligence. If you imagine to be an observer, like some sort of five-dimensional observer who's observing the planet in an orbit, how it moves through the millions of years, right? And now imagine you are always flying, let's say you're flying above, what is this now, South America. So let's say you imagine you're flying above Europe or something like this. And then you would see at some point, with the millions of years pass by, all of a sudden stone tools appear, and then all of a sudden art appears, and at some point pyramids appear, right? And they're plopping up like mushrooms on the planet, so to say, all of a sudden. And at some point, artificial intelligence appears. So, so we have these appearances of the new on Earth's. We have these appearances of the new on Earth's surface. They are the Earth, all right? So artificial intelligence is not meant human, so to say, but it's a property of the surface of the Earth. It's not something that we made up or something like this. Just like pyramids are a property of the surface of the Earth. So since we don't have time, I will skip that. I would have liked to ask you a question, or maybe somebody's in the mood. So I should have put material relations on Earth's surface in quotation marks. Why should I have put material? So I'm claiming that there are material relations on Earth's surface. Why should I have put it in quotation marks? It's a very complicated question, but maybe somebody has an idea. Whoever feels like
in a way, philosophy, AI, and religion is not material. It's
yeah, okay, good. This is an example. Yeah, okay, that's true. That's also a good answer, but that's not what I was looking for. It's true, but I wanted to say something else. This is important. We'll talk about this later, but I wanted to point out something else. Okay, I'll just quickly say. So the idea is this, that we consider Earth material, that we consider Earth, that we consider all this as material is itself a new appearance that appeared somewhere between philosophy and the machines. All right, the fact that we are rendering reality by materialism is a new emergence itself. It's a new event itself. It's a new aesthetics itself. This didn't exist before 1400. All right. So this idea that we have today, that we are in a material world, that we have materialism and all the sciences, this is itself something that happened here between philosophy and the machines and didn't exist before. The rendering of the world by material, how to say it, by materialistic principles. Okay, it was just a fun question, basically. So you see my point. The world, how we perceive it today, is itself only, how should I say, a phase of itself. So how we describe it today, how we describe the world today is only a phase of the universe itself. This is just as materialism is only a phase of the universe itself, the rendering. So this is a little bit tough to think. It's kind of a recursive. It's kind of a recursive argumentation. But okay, it's not important. It was just a little joke question. So the question is there a logic of becoming? So if we have all these phenomena who are apparently consecutively emerging on Earth, now we can ask, is there even a logic in that? So we can sort them. Now we can sort them. We can say, okay, teeth, hands, upright walking are something else than stone walls and tools and so on. So we can sort. Now we can sort this, and we will find that these type of developments and events are again different in skull rituals and magic and shamanism, and this again is different than domestication and philosophy and AI and bungee jump. All right. So now we already moved from a general description of what is happening and becoming on Earth, not a description, a general summary. Now we have already ordered it a little bit, and now we see, okay, there is an order apparently. The becoming already comes in different classes. Okay, that's so becoming comes in different classes or in different types, and the events are different, comes in different types. So we have biological evolution, which is different than cultural evolution. Then we have this intermediary phase. We will talk about this later, but at some point we have these notional events like aesthetics, art appears, rituals appear, and so on. And then you have civilizational history. So we have obviously different, so we can sort this again in another way. So we can say we have biological evolution, cultural evolution, and civilizational history. By the way, I'm using the German term civilizational history. That means, you can say Zivilisationsgeschichte. Civilizational history starts 40,000 years ago with the invention of, let's say, art and memory systems. But we will talk about this next time. So just so you don't get confused, the cultural evolution means the time from 3 million years ago till 40,000 years ago, and civilizational history means from 40,000 years ago till today. Okay, so just so you know that what you're talking. So is there a logic of becoming? Now we see already we have biological evolution, cultural evolution, civilizational history. Are there patterns of becoming in this? If we find patterns of becoming, then we can extrapolate these patterns, we can continue them, and then we can maybe define what the technological civilization is. So this is the idea. So the basic idea of my research and of this seminar is this. First, we will look at general patterns of becoming in cultural evolution. So this is what we did in module 1 last year, but I'll repeat it in the next session. So we are looking for general patterns of becoming in cultural evolution, and then we will see if we can. So why do we do that? Because the cultural evolution is still very simple. So the developments are not very complicated. If you go from a stone tool, from a hammer to a spear, this is not the same as going from bookprint to artificial intelligence or something like this. So it's easier to look for patterns in cultural evolution. So we are going to look for general patterns of becoming in cultural evolution, and then we will apply and examine the general patterns of becoming on civilizational history. Okay, and then we will see if the technological civilization can be defined as a new step of civilization, or as a new step of becoming, or as a new step of reality or not. This is the. So as I said, this was module 1, module 2, and by the way, so here you see, where is it now? So this is why I've called, why the title is Layers of Generativity, Axial Age, Modernity, and Technological Civilization. These phases in history, we will later see or examine that they show the similar principles of, the same principles actually of development, like shift, like stages in early cultural evolution. Okay, so we will basically, I go back again. So we will apply the patterns found in cultural evolution to the Greek antiquity, to modernity, and to technological civilization. All right? So this is the idea of this seminar. And the point is, when we are done with that, then we can ask new questions about the future and about our current state of reality, and then we can expand this in philosophy. But first we have to go through this whole history. Okay, so in other words, is the technological civilization a new layer of becomings? All right, so people, this is going much slower than I thought, actually. I thought I would be further than that. So, is it clear up to now? Can you follow still, or is it too much? Or too less? Too slow? Alles klar, super clear, okay. Thanks, that's good. So what are we doing now? Patrick, you said we have to finish soon, or what is the...
We have to finish at in 18 minutes, basically.
In 18 minutes, okay, we have to, or we have to? We have to, huh?
We have to, yes.
Okay.
I'm sharing this apartment with another person, and this other person needs to sleep.
Oh,
I mean, we can amend, so we can add some time on a further seminar, but then I have to talk with this other person beforehand, and other than that, I can't add something like 40 minutes. And actually, I think it is better if we add more time to a follow-up class, because then we as the new center can look if we can update your sound, and then we have a better experience for everybody.
okay.
You so I think it's like in German we call zwei Fliegen mit einer Klatsche to.
No, yeah, sure, of course. And listen, now I'll make a harsh proposal. You have to leave the room. Did I understand it correctly? So it's
No, this is a one-room apartment.
one-room apartment, okay.
I have another person and a guest at the apartment right now, and they will be here in 60 minutes.
Okay.
60 minutes
what happens?
closes.
Okay. So what would happen if you just leave us? Does it still record?
No, I can't do that. I have to stop the broadcast.
Oh, you have to stop the broadcast. Okay.
I have to stop the broadcast. I have to moderate it. I have to check if there is some technical issues.
All right. Okay, so whatever. If you say so, then
we will add those 40 minutes to the next class, or I will talk with Jason and Mohammed. If we get the extra session, I will fight for the extra session. Let's put it like that. I will fight for the extra session, and all of that. If that is not possible, we'll put some time plus.
Okay. All right. Let's now think about it, how to solve the problem then with the material. Okay, so we have 15 minutes left, so we have a choice. Should I go on a little bit and just finish the next, or do you want to discuss something?
Yeah, what should the students do until next class?
There's no way. Since we broke today in the middle, they don't have to do anything basically, because I will just continue.
Yeah, but is there a special text the students should read? Long list, and I think it would be good to know, let's say, one main book, one secondary book, and one optional, something like that. I mean, we can talk after the class about this.
Yeah, no, I have to think about it because I have to remodify everything because we today didn't, go well time-wise.
It's good if the students have something to do the whole week. So I think it's best you come back at me, let's say tomorrow, and you give me the book or the text they should read, and I'll send it to them.
No problem. Yeah, I mean, I just put it in the classroom, no?
You can also put it in the classroom, but it's also good if I know, because then I send.
Sure. No, I will tell you, of course, but I'm just saying I'll just put it up directly, so it doesn't go around two corners.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll think about that. So let me think for a moment. Just take a look. How long will it take? Okay. So I think I will go on quickly. Yeah. This is so Kevin Mule is saying that this article that came out recently is the cortex, and it's true. It is the cortex, but I don't want you to read it because it doesn't. Because it would be better if you hear me first talking about it, and then. No, it's okay. It doesn't matter. Let's just skip that totally now. Okay. Let's talk about text tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always confusing when you get the messages on the right, and I don't think you can see that in the video, right? That there are messages coming all the time.
The Hangout group chat will be all amended to the classroom.
Okay. So that people who are watching this, I'm confused because stuff is happening outside of my. hangout reality. Okay, so let me just say one more thing, okay, and then we wrap it up for today. So here we go. Okay, so the question is still, can we find, patterns of becoming that will help us to understand, to define if the technological civilization is a new stage or not. So, okay, of course, we know it's kind of trivial to know that information technology will bring a new reality. Everybody knows that, right? But the question is, what effects will it have? What does it really do? Does it really go beyond modernity or not? Because many people also say still that cybernetics is capitalism. So that the attempt, the cybernetic attempt to render everything into information is capitalist. How should I say this? This is the I don't know the English word. That this is the so to say manifestation of capitalism. So this is the question: is it really, or is it indicating that something new is happening and is it maybe independent of capitalism? Can it be independent? Right. Okay, so we need to know what are the potentials that we get from, what are the potentials that the current technologies have right now for a systems transition, so to speak. Okay, so now let's look at, so now we've seen apparently new things are happening on the planet, and the question is there logic? So do we have general tendencies in cultural and social evolution? So yeah, we have general tendencies. We have an increase of population, obviously. So everybody knows the demographic increase from 1,000 people to 10 billion people. So this is clear. We have an increase in population. So we have another general tendency in cultural evolution and civilization history. This is the expansion of the niche or the resource space. So that means obviously humans are expanding the radius of the resources they can use, so to speak. So today we are going on the moon, we are going to Mars, we are drilling in below the North Pole and stuff like this, right? So we are expanding our resource space and our niche where we exist. So this is a continuous tendency in cultural evolution. Then we also have the extension or expansion of the domestication of internal and external nature. So, for example, the weather forecast is an expansion of the domestication of outside nature. Why? Because I can know tomorrow it's going to rain, so I can deal with that. So I'm in a sense domesticating nature by preemptively, what should I say? Yeah, I wanted to say preemptively objectifying the weather of tomorrow, but that doesn't make sense. So by the weather forecast, we are domesticating. Or no, let's say like this: we know, for example, if a storm comes, if a storm happens, then we know it's not a danger to us anymore. So we have domesticated. We have domesticated, most animals, and we also have domesticated internal nature. So as I see, everybody of you is sitting right now. This is a self-domestication. And it's not very old. It's like in that sense, as we are sitting today, sitting is a technology that helps you to focus, of course, right? So the body pattern of sitting and putting your body in this position is itself a technology that has effect or on your mind, basically. So in that sense, we have domesticated internal nature. Or if you think about education or in general. Morals, we are not walking around in the street and stealing stuff. So this is also a sort of domestication of the inner external nature. This is anyway. Okay, so expansion of operational chains problems. Okay, we will talk about this another time. So we have an increase of division of labor and the interdependence of social complexity. So today we have. So look, I find it very fascinating. Every time we have these hangouts, so we have somebody from Australia, somebody from Portland, right? So now I forgot London was there 2 times maybe. So it's crazy. I mean, so you see, we are the division of labor. So we are basically dividing labor right now. So we are connecting each other and working together on something. Right? So we have. So this is also a tendency in cultural evolution, civilization history, that the division of labor is increasing and that the interdependence of humans is increasing, and with that the social complexity. that is, of course, related to the increase of the population. The more people there are, the more you can become interdependent. If there are only 2 people, yeah, okay, this is all right. Let's skip the joke. So we have the expansion of medial experience space of communication and coupling. So expansion of, if you think about it, we have a probe on Mars, right? So we can wander around on Mars. We can communicate as we do right now all over the planet. We can communicate globally. So this is called, so Luhmann, the German systems theory guy, called this once the medial experience space. So the expansion of the medial experience space. I mean, this is clear. So I don't. This is. So we have also an increase of abstraction. So if you think about it, 2,000 years ago, people started to think, or maybe a little bit more, about negative numbers. Today we talk about real numbers and imaginary numbers, and we talk about quantum physics, and we talk about the entanglement, which is totally impossible in our everyday reality, and so on. So the increase of abstraction. So there's a general tendency in cultural evolution that we have an increase of abstraction. What we also have, we will talk about this later, not today, increase and refinement of the rendering or resolution of the world. So our resolution today goes down to atoms, for example, or quantum, processes, or quarks, and so on. Right? And this is a resolution of the world. We can render the world in a very fine-grained way compared to 1,000 years ago, or something like this, or 2,000 years ago. All right. So we have an increase or refinement of the rendering or resolution of the world. That's a tendency, right? The continuous increase. So increase in organizational competence. What do I mean with this? Okay, I mean cognition. So increasing organizational competence means we are getting, so to say, smarter in a way. We can organize more things, right? So you need, so to speak, more intelligence to build a rocket. Okay, this is a relative question. Let's say like this: you need more thinking power to build a spaceship than you need to build a, whatever, a wooden ship in antiquity or something like that. Relatively speaking, so in other words, we have an increase in organizational competences. We will talk about this later, if it's true or not, that intelligence is increasing. So, and then also when we look at the general tendency, this is not really a tendency, but this is more like a principle. We see, if we look at history, we see that there's a coevolutive relation between mind or intelligence and culture, technology, the social complexity and media, and the niche we live in, right? So there's a co-evolution. If you live in the desert in North Africa, for example, in Egypt or something like that, it will have a different effect on what kind of mind you develop than if you live in let's say in the jungle in South America or in Switzerland or something like this, right? So there's a coevolutive relationship. So this is not really a tendency, but how should I say? Anyway, it's just added there. So so now we can see we have these clear tendencies in cultural evolution, civilization, history. So they're very clear. There's absolutely no doubt about it. If you look at history, that all these things are happening. So these are tendencies. So we have these clear tendencies, but is there an order? Is there anything that we can say beyond that there is just a tendency? All right. So let's go back, for example, to the increase of abstraction. Is it gradual? Does the abstraction of the world increase gradually or randomly, like a little bit here, a little bit there, and then we have a new symbol system here, and then we have a new number system there? Or is there an order, a logic in the increase of abstraction? Right? So in other words, is there an order or a logic or a principle within or beneath the general tendencies in cultural evolution? Why do we need to know that? Because we need to know if there's an order we need to know if there's an order in order to define the technological civilization, right? If it would be all random, then you couldn't say anything substantial about the technological civilization. So you need a formal principle criteria. You need a logic that will allow you to pinpoint the hallmarks or the new properties and define them as something really new, so to say. So in other words, we have these general tendencies. They're very clear, and obviously the technological civilization is a continuation of these tendencies, but we don't know if there is an order yet, and therefore we don't know how to localize the technological civilization. All right. So, and okay, I'll come back for a moment. So I see we have 2 minutes left. Patrick, how much time do we have left?
5 minutes, something like that.
Okay, then I just go on if you can. Let's go back to the.
Give you 10 more minutes.
10 more minutes. That's very nice. Thank you very much.
15 minutes.
That's the welcome gift, like the coupon you get when you do something for the first time and you want to go to a spa or something like that. Okay, this like take the 10 minutes gladly. Okay, thanks. So I do feel like a spa because it's in a spa. It's really warm in Berlin and I'm sweating. Anyway, okay, so regularities in cultural, in social evolution. So are there more regularities? So we know now we have these tendencies, all right? We asked if there's an order, but can we find other regularities quickly? Is there anything that shows us that there's something regular happening in cultural evolution, cultural and social evolution? And that's, I hope you read the text in that case, convergent evolution. So let me come back for a moment. So you have, I don't know if you read the text of Vermeil about convergent evolution, the 2 pages, the introduction about convergent evolution. So he brings the example of Stephen Jay Gould, who has this idea in the 70s, in the postmodernity, basically. So he has this idea that when you look at evolution as a tape, right? So like a tape, like a audio tape or something like this. And when you rewind the tape, and if you would play it again, then the evolution would come to totally new forms. All right. So you rewind the tape of evolution and play it again, and then it would not play the same music. So to say, it would not play the same again. So it would not bring forth elephants. It would, it would not bring forth crocodiles. It would go in another direction. So this is the, I don't know, actually, right now I forgot if there's a scientific term for that, but you get the idea, right? So the idea is you play it back, rewind it, play it back again, and then you would get to a new evolution, and you could, let's call it contingent evolution, right? It could be it could be different. Now there is a lot of discussion about that. In the 70s, in postmodernity, of course, everything was contingent, and people like this idea. Today, we don't like it so much anymore. We are not so convinced of this anymore. So there are very good indications that some forms of organisms are universal. All right. So, for example, what is universal is the symmetry, that we have 2 parts of the body. This can be explained very simply because it's energy, more energy efficient as if you had 3 parts or 5 parts or something like this. Right? But then on the other hand, you have symmetry. Symmetry, and then you have also the how do you say this in English? Like the sea stars, like 5. You have a symmetry of 5 arms. Like these little things in the water that have 5. What is it?
Starfish.
Starfish, thank you. Okay. So, all right. So this is an example. So there are apparently there are good indications that there are universal forms that would appear again and again and again. Right. So the idea in the 70s, and Stephen Jay Gould's idea was, and he was famous for a while for that evolution is contingent and it would not bring forth again the same forms. But today we see more and more indicators that evolution is not at all contingent, but the forms are kind of universal. It doesn't mean that they have to appear, but if evolution appears, then they are part of what will be emerging, so to say. Anyway, So, and the term for this is convergent evolution. Okay, we are back. Convergent evolution. Convergent means that two organisms at different times develop the same property independently of each other. All right, convergent evolution. So in other words, so for example, the famous example is the wing. So we have a dinosaur. Dinosaurs developed the wing. The bat as a mammal developed the wing, and the bird again, coming from baby dinosaurs, developed the wing. All right. So we have two different species, not species, phylum. Okay, we have two different, three different phyla, different families of animals that at totally different times in evolution developed exactly the same property, and that is flying, and that is the wing. And the interesting thing is that it also has five joints, right? Like we have 5 fingers, we have 5 joints. The bird and the bat. Oh, actually, not. Oh, I think it is. I think it's with the bird the same, actually. Yeah, anyway, so you have the convergent evolution. So, and then another example is echolocation. So both the bat and yeah, animal, these whales, what developed it. Okay. You know your animals. Who's this talking always? Like somebody. Okay. Anyway, so and then also we have what's also interesting: the the photosynthesis that we see plants as green, right? That was independently developed in evolution 40 times, and there are many more incidences, convergent evolution events. So this points us, of course, the question, since these different organisms and life forms develop the same forms and principles, apparently there must be a logic. There must be some sort of principle. It doesn't mean that it's exclusively ordered. Of course, there is a lot of noise and chaos, there is no question. But the question is, why do they appear to come up with the same form again and again and again, right? So this is a strong indication that it's totally legitimized to and plausible to look for a general order of becoming. There must be something. There can be something. Here, let's say like this, there can be something. Now let's look at convergent evolution in culture and technology. So this is a nice example from the book of Kevin Kelly, What Technology Wants. It's interesting to read it. It doesn't cost much, or download it on the internet. I would suggest to read it to everybody. I'm not a fan of his conclusions, and he's simplifying a lot. But Kevin Kelly is, I think, the founder of the Wired magazine and of the whole Earth catalog. Who doesn't know him? He's appearing on TED Talks and talking about about technology and progress and stuff. Anyway, so his book. So in his book, you can find this very nice picture. You see exactly the same technology, exactly even the same clothes, the same, everything is the same. But these are two individuals that the one is from the Amazonas and the other is from Borneo. They are 15,000 kilometers, or whatever, 10,000 miles away from each other, and they did not have any contact with each other. The only thing that is similar is that they are actually an early tribal society, and that they live in a jungle. But you see, the technology is exactly the same, and they never had contact with each other. All right. So this is convergent evolution in culture and technology. It's exactly the same as with these guys. So you have a certain environment, you have a certain level of technology, and this environment and the level of technology, they together form a sort of a certain type of problems and a certain type of challenges, and apparently they are solved always in the same way. In that case, it is very convenient to use a blowgun to go hunting. All right. So, okay, so we have more. The wheel was invented several times, of course, during history. and also at different times. So anyway, later. So and you have this architecture. So how is it that you have pyramids in Egypt, something similar in Mesopotamia, and then something in South America in the Maya? And by the way, the pyramids here are from, let's say, 4,000 years ago, and the Maya pyramids are from 1,500 years ago. So you have apparently the same kind of architecture, the same kind of whatever thinking or similar type of thinking in similar type of societies, but they are diachronically totally far away from each other. So the pyramids in Egypt have happened 3,000 years before the pyramids in South America. And but there was no contact, and there were also no whatever aliens or something like this. So the interesting thing is that not only the pyramids are similar, but also, for example, the theological systems and the calendar systems. All right. So there are a lot of similarities between Maya and Egypt, just as an example. So how is it possible that we have this convergence here? So here, exactly. So I forgot about this. So we have the hieroglyphs from Egypt, and on the right side we have the Mayan, I think, or whatever it is, Aztec, Olmec. Writing. So it's exactly the same, structurally the same, right? I think Kevin earlier mentioned topology of cultures, right? So the topology of this type of thinking is the same. They have the same gestalt. So we can call this civilizational isomorphisms. I just made this up today, so I don't know if this is a useful term or not, but let's just call it civilizational isomorphisms. Technologies, you can find these isomorphisms in technologies, in social order, in media, in ontologies like Egypt and Maya, and in metaphysics. So apparently similar things are being developed in history, right? Even time concepts. Yeah, time concepts is important. So for example, the Egyptians and the Maya both have a cyclical time concept. We will talk about this later. So for them, it's always cycling, right? No, actually oscillating. Yeah. Okay, we'll talk about this another time. So there are many similarities. So we can call this convergent evolution, or so in other words, the question is: does the convergent evolution in culture and technology and the civilizational isomorphisms, are they indicating that there are universal states of cultural evolution? So is there something universal about the development? Right? So is there something universal about this type of writing? Because it seems to appear again and again. Is there something universal about the wheel? Apparently this, because apparently it's being, under some circumstances, under some generative conditions, it is being invented again and again and again, right? So this is the question now. So if we know if there are universal states of cultural evolution, then since they are universal, we can look again for an order or for a logic. Of course, we want to know if with the technological civilization, a new universal state of cultural evolution is appearing. So do we find patterns of development becoming in the universal processes? All right, so before I go on, I think, Patrick, 10 minutes are over. The 10 minutes are over, Patrick, so I don't know what's...
Mikey is asking to if it's possible to get a copy of the PowerPoint.
Yeah, certainly, of course.
I think it would be good to get it uploaded to the cloud service that we're using.
Yes. I can send you what we had. I will not send you the whole PowerPoint presentation, but the one from today. Right? What we made today, what we went through today. Okay, so what is it now, Patrick? Are we done? Is it over? Finish?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. It's a pity because I just warmed up, but it's I understand. So.
Well, how long does another slide take?
Let me see. Not so much. That's very fast, actually. It would be again 10 minutes, 8 minutes.
Okay.
I don't know. You tell me. I don't need to force anything.
Just do it. Just
Okay. All right. I'll just. Okay. So let's go a little bit closer. Let's zoom in now a little bit closer at culture. So this was very general, right? Very rough, very grob. What is the grob in English? Anyway, so very large, unrefined patterns and regularities. Let's go a little bit closer. Let's go to the multiple discoveries. So multiple discoveries is the same thing like basically convergent evolution. Did you read the text? Did you see that there's a text about multiple discoveries? Anyway, so multiple discoveries means that one discovery is made by different people simultaneously and independently. So the most famous example is, of course, the invention of the calculus by Newton and Leibniz. You know, like for 100 years, people were arguing who was first. Did one steal it from the other or not? But the point is, it absolutely doesn't matter. They both came at it at the same time, and there's also a reason why they both developed it. Yeah. So at this time, actually very late, people still thought that their ideas are coming, I don't know, like from God or something like this, or that we are geniuses and that we are producing the new, so to say, out of their soul or something like this, right? But today we know this is not really the case. The calculus was invented by two people for good reasons at the same time simultaneously. And there's another example. This is one of the most striking ones because if you read the story, it's kind of breathtaking. So the principle of the conservation of energy, that means that you can power up. You can heat water, then it will produce steam, and the heat that produces steam makes the steam expand, and the expansion can be transformed into force, right? And then the force can be transformed into moving force, and then this force can again be transformed into electricity and so on. So this idea that energy can change its form and can be conveyed through different aggregates and different materials. This is a new thing that was discovered in 1980, 1840 around this. So we call it today joule or calories, right? So you eat your food, how many calories did you take up? Right? So into how much energy can a leaf of bread transform? So the interesting thing about it is that this was discovered independently by people coming from absolutely totally different directions. So the general question was there. People were thinking in this direction, but the ways how they solved the problem is really interesting. So the one was looking. It's not important. I'll send you material about this. But so we have a multiple discovery by 4 people at the exactly same time, coming from more or less different directions. So photography was discovered or invented at the same time in 1839. Then color photography, exactly 30 years later, again developed independently by 2. I think the one is French, the other was Belgium or something like that. So in the material you will find one list made by the sociologist Ockburn from 1922 or something, where he summed up some of the known multiple discoveries in history of science. Today there are much more, and I myself, only by not even directly researching for it, I think I made a list of 50 more that I found by chance during my research in the last couple of years. So basically the whole history of science is full with multiple discoveries. I would even say that single discoveries are more or less the minority, right? So you could say. Anyway, so the telescope, for example, was of course developed independently and so on, and many more. So it's interesting to take a look at that. So the question is, yeah. But inside,
I have one question.
Yeah, please.
What about the second law of thermodynamics?
Yeah.
especially the Clausius statement by Rudolf Clausius in 1854. It is also an invention, basically. It's a theoretical invention. It's a...
Yeah, you could call it. I mean, it's a scientific finding, no? I mean, this... So, and what is the question?
The question is it not an... when it relates to all these developments. It is it comes. I mean, it is the counter argument against transcendentalism.
Against? Sorry, I didn't. Against?
It's a counter argument against idea of the world as transcendental, as
accidental.
Transcendental.
Transcendental.
The world is not finite. That there is, you can just through wishful thinking you can come up with that. Is not that somehow related to all these the theory of science?
Yeah.
That is necessary for all these developments to occur, or...
Oh, okay, I understand what you say. Right. So you're asking if the ideas are coming from some extra dimensional space or something like this?
No, not like that. But we have fast acceleration of progression in the realm of technology that is based upon a foundation of realization of how the law of physics and chemistry work, and that only through this membrane technology can work. We cannot. I mean, we also have a lot of crazy shit like radon glasses that glow in the dark and stuff like that, which I see always as like the last remnants of transcendentalism that tries to build itself upon science. And I just thought I'll present that thought because I thought it somehow relates to the current point.
So what do you mean with transcendentalism? That maybe is a crucial point. I don't think I know or understand.
For me, transcendentalism in this regard is that there is something beyond the world, that something beyond physics, something beyond...
Oh, okay, that's what you mean. Yeah, no. Exactly. The point is, I was very disappointed with the results of my finding, because I think I can exclude that in that sense there is something beyond the world. If you look at this at history of technology and science, only at that, right? If you look at it, you see just really like a logical pattern of expansion of the knowledge, and there are no jumps. There is no magic event or something like this. You know, there is nothing coming from any outside. It really builds step by step on previous findings. Very materialistic, absolutely materialistic. You see what I'm saying? There is no soul. There is no extra dimensional space. There is no jumps. You know, it's not possible that there would be an Egyptian who would come up with the telephone or something like this. You see what I'm saying? Because he cannot make all the jumps in his head to even think of electricity or something. You get my point? So that's true, exactly. So with this sort of definition of transcendentalism, I can definitely exclude that from my current knowledge. And if you look at the history of science, there are no jumps. There is nothing extraordinary, nothing extra, real, nothing extra dimensional. It's clever people, of course. Like, of course, Newton and so on was a genius, but he was not outside of the world, right? As you can see, Leibniz at the same time developed the same idea, and many other people too. There's a nice anecdote, if I may quickly just tell this. I just read it 2 days ago. The famous mathematician Cantor, from set theory, and we will talk about it next time. Anyway, so he thought that his ideas, he was writing in 1870 to 19 something, not living, writing. So at this time, he thought that his ideas are given to him, so to say, by God. And when somebody criticized them, so I remember the story. What was the story? Okay, so somebody criticized him for his idea, and he didn't want to accept it because criticizing him for his idea that was given to him by God and to him alone would be basically heretic. All right. So the funny thing is that at the same time, somebody had exactly the same thought, but he didn't know about it. All right. So you see my point. So this is the most clear anecdote that shows that there is no transcendentalism in that sense. He believed, of course, that that's also the reason why I've sent the text of Mühlmann with uchrony. So people think when they invent something, they are uchronic, they are timeless, they are inventing something that will that is, so to speak, forever, that has some sort of connection to the outside or something, but it's not. Obviously, if you look at it, you can see whatever idea you have, it was logical that you will have it, and if you wouldn't have had it, somebody else would have it. So this is an important thing, I must say. I don't know who's familiar with Karen Barad, with the agential realism, or with actor network theory of Pickering, of Andrew Pickering. So he's maybe a little bit of an opponent of Latour. So they are still believing in this idea that things can happen just by chance. Right? So we are looking at a history of technology so they are zooming in, very fine-grained, and they still believe. I will write this later. I'll tell you later. Okay, here was a request on the. So they think everything is happening by chance, but if you look at the macro pattern, then you will see there's no chance at all, right? So this is anyway. Let's just finish this. Can I go on quickly and finish the? Right.
Please.
Right. Yeah. Except thanks, Kevin, you, Karen Barat, and Pickering. So both are writing interesting stuff. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's not good enough. All right. Okay, let's just finish this quickly with the multiple discoveries. So now we looked at technological discoveries, right? And this is kind of logical. You cannot build a car before you have not invented a wheel. You need to invent a wheel, and then you can build a car. All right. So this is logical that something must be in order. You know, there must be some sort of order. That's clear. You cannot build whatever. You get the point. So this is the cumulative culture or the ratchet effect. But now the interesting thing is, do multiple discoveries in that sense also happen in art and culture? And if you look at history, of course they do. So the Enlightenment was politically and philosophically developed both in Europe and the American colonies. So the American colonies and the independence, Declaration of Independence made an unbelievable, huge impact on Europe, right? They said, okay, we can do it too. We can free ourselves from the gentry. But the point is that the ideas, of course, in Europe were there already, right? So at some point, so we have a multiple discovery in that. Or if you read, for example, it's interesting, if you read the political writings of Kant and the political writings of, what's the famous name, Thomas Jane, or something like this, from America, there is a famous, thank you, yeah, exactly, not Jane, Paine. Yeah, from Thomas Paine. If you read the Manifest of Paine and if you read the Manifest of Kant, you will see it's exactly the same. I mean, of course, there are slight differences, but the topology, so to speak, is the same again. Anyway, so Romanticism happened in Germany and in England at the same time. So, of course, people were corresponding with each other, but why was it interesting for people in England all of a sudden to also feel like the Germans did, or the other way around? Why did the German people feel, why did they feel drawn to that, right? So feminism, Europe, America happens at the same time, of course. Futurism, Italy, England, Germany. In England, it's called Vorticism. So they try to distinguish themselves from futurism. They said we are not so we're talking about the time 1911. They said that we are not futurism, and they call themselves Vorticism. I'm not sure how familiar you are with all this. But if you read the texts and the writing and the aesthetics, you will find it's very the same. It has a slight different, style or taste to it, but it's exactly the same. All right, then we have, for example, expressionism happens at the same time. we have minimal art and so on, and then we have accelerationism, which was published in UK in 2013 and in Germany in 2009, independently. The people didn't know about each other. Right? Of course, we have different cultures, so it came in different tastes or different styles a little bit, but the basic idea was developed at the same time by people that were born at the same, actually in the same year even, and published independently from each other. How is this possible, right? So the multiple discoveries in science, technology, art, and culture are indicating again that there is some sort of logic of becoming. There must be some sort of regularity. Since apparently people develop realities independently from each other, develop the same realities independently from each other. So the question is, okay, the next step would be if the, okay, so we know, I just finished here. So the multiple discoveries, discoveries again are indicating that there is a logic of becoming, that there's some sort of pattern that we can grasp, or at least, let's say, a tendency. And if you can find a pattern, it's up to us to find it. So I think this is it, my friends.
So then we'll see each other in a week,
Yeah.
basically.
Okay, don't stop. Just a second. Okay, let me just give me just 2 more minutes. I would like to ask if there are more questions still. I mean, I guess there are questions, and also feedback if I was too fast or too slow or whatever. So we have to stop now. I'm really sorry, and I also have to apologize again that we started so late. I have a new computer, which, how do you say this in English, screwed me over. So I really apologize. It was not on purpose. But please say something, questions or comments. Was it unclear? Should we go on?
Can I ask? I have a kind of question. Just a comment. Firstly, yeah, it's got the course. The course is going really well. Looking forward to the rest of it. Don't worry about the technical difficulties. But the other thing is, there seems to be a lot of variables that you mapped out that constitute civilization and culture. Is it not possible that there's just like, although there is a pattern, there's simply too many variables to ever map them?
Yeah, no, it's true.
And another thing would be, I mean, isn't another thing I think is that maybe you'll get to this, but you know, all of a lot of the sort of things that are happening feed off scientific discoveries.
Yeah.
But since you can never predict the level of science like beyond the one you're at,
yeah,
you can't determine what possibilities, the way that the possibility space will shift or something as a result of.
So yeah, I understand what you said. So you're saying basically I'm proposing magical thinking. So what I'm proposing is magical and impossible. The point is this. It is possible. So so let's go back to the first question. So the first question was, shit, I forgot the name.
I just noted that there was a lot of
variables. Yes. Okay, I'm simplifying. Yes. So exactly. So this is the first question. So you're saying that I'm, this is exactly the purpose. So we will see later that we can reduce a lot of cultural phenomena to a common denominator, so to speak. Right? So I understand that what I'm doing now in my introduction, I know this is annoying. I mean, I know that I'm simplifying things. I'm just doing this, so to speak, for pedagogical reasons to introduce you to the type of thinking, so to speak. Of course, everything must be more shown in detail, right? So if I compare the Maya and the Egyptian, there are more differences, all right? But the point is, what I'm looking for is general patterns or general phase spaces, in which the single cultures with all their different concretizations, how should I say, there would be a concretization of the phase space, all right? So what I'm describing, so look, I could talk about the keyboard, I could talk about the alphabet, but what I'm trying is I'm trying to reduce the idea of the alphabet to the general idea of a letter system, okay? And I'm not looking at the details of each writing system, like the alphabet or like the Chinese writing system, but I'm looking at the emergence of the writing system as a principle itself. Does this make sense as an answer for that? So
yes, it does make sense. We can talk about it later.
I'm really sorry, but I really have to stop.
Okay.
Okay.
Please,
okay.
write down the questions and can get the quick Q&A running at the next class in the start, but it's not possible anymore.
Okay, let me just say one last word to Zachary. So your second question, if it's possible to extrapolate, since we don't know what next technology will come, right? So this is the question. So since we don't know what technology will come, since we don't know what kind of natural laws we will discover, it doesn't make sense to extrapolate. And the point is this: I think it does still, because we don't know to know the technology anymore. So this is what I'm proposing, and this is exactly the topic of this course, to show that it is possible. So in other words, I will not answer the question now in detail. You will see when we go through the course how this is meant to be.
Thanks, Devo.
But this is going to be very in detail. So we will discuss about this much more. So don't worry. So I'm aware of these pitfalls. This is what I'm saying. So, okay. So Patrick, sorry.
Yeah.
You're done, right?
Sorry, but it really needs to end now.
Okay. Okay. Well, I thank you all very much, the participants and Patrick. So next week again, over 20, same time, same place.
Yeah. Exactly. No, 40 minutes earlier. Sure.
Okay. Understood. All right. Thank you very much.
Bye.
I left the call. I'm still here.